listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. So in this episode, we're going to look at why some essays get band 6.8. We're going to look at the criteria, then we're going to look at a question, and we're going to look at two fragments of different essays, like two introductions actually. And these two introductions, one will be a 6.5, the other will be a band 8. So let's get started. Let's look at the criteria. So a band 8 essay, will cover all parts of the writing task in less than 250 words. So you'll be able to, you will develop a solid response with specific examples to support your own ideas. So if you're writing about pollution, then you're going to give an example about pollution in China, and this is going to fit into your essay in a logical manner. Okay, you're not going to put it in your introduction, for example. It'll come later in your body paragraphs. And when you do present these examples, you're going to use these examples to support your ideas, your opinion, your position. Okay, and then while you're communicating all this, you're going to use connectors, such as firstly, secondly. This is to structure it, or connectors. Probably better saying stuff like, probably better using connectors as however, nevertheless, all of these ones. And this, you'll use these to sequence your argument in a logical manner, okay? And when the examiner is reading it, your paragraph, they'll be cohesive, okay? They'll stick together. There won't be any random thoughts just stuck on the end, okay? And it'll just make it really easy and clear to read. Okay, so this is what we're aiming for if we're going for a band 8. Logical, cohesive, well thought out structure with some solid examples. Now, with your grammar structures should be very accurate, okay, with a good variety of language in there. Now, here's a tip just to help you with regards to variety of language. When you've finished your essay, go back over it and see if there are any times when you've used the same structure. Okay, so maybe you've given an example, and to present that example, you've said, take for example, China and Shenzhen, whatever. Okay, and then in the second paragraph, you said, take for example, the destruction of the Amazon rainforest over the last 50 years. Now, in both cases, we've used the same structure to present the example. And that's a shame because there's a million, well, maybe not a million, but there are plenty of ways to say, for example. You could say, so we don't have to change both of them. We just have to change the second one because we've already used the first one in the first paragraph. So maybe in the second paragraph, instead of saying, take for example, the Amazon rainforest, we could say, recent research by the World Bank has shown that the Amazon rainforest, blah, blah, blah. Or we could say, a study by Greenpeace showed the Amazon rainforest, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And what I want to say here is that there are different ways to present the same thing. So you can just go back, substitute in, substitute out, and just change and help and, just basically boost your own score. So now we're going to look at two fragments. We're going to look at the question first, and then we're going to look at two introductions and analyze these introductions. And I want you to guess what band score they got. Grab a pen write down this question, which I'm going to say, and you might even want to just practice making an essay plan or practice your own introduction for this essay and then compare it to the ones I'm going to give you in the next few minutes. So here's the question. Most students are traveling abroad for further education. Do you believe the advantages of this experience are greater than the drawbacks associated with it? I'll say it again. More students are traveling abroad for further education. Do you believe the advantages of this experience are greater than the drawbacks associated with it? Now, here's another skill, another tip. The ability to read a question that's maybe 20 words and condense it down to 5-word question. Traveling abroad, studying abroad, good or bad. Okay, that's basically what it is. Okay, and maybe you want to put a reference to time because it says more students are traveling abroad. So study abroad, study abroad, recently, studying abroad, good or bad. Okay, so once you've simplified it, it's easier for you to construct your own plan, which is probably the next stage, and then from your plan you would write your introduction. So we've got the question, we've done our plan. Now we're going to jump straight into the introduction. So listen to this introduction and then tell me what grade you think this would be. Since the last 10 years, there are many more students who travel abroad to study to international universities. I will investigate the advantages and disadvantages on this pattern in this essay. I'll say it again. Why don't you write the introduction down and look at it and analyze it and try and spot the errors. Here's a quick tip, a quick clue. There's 4 errors here. Here's the question. Since the introduction, since the last 10 years, there are many more students who travel abroad to study to international universities. I will investigate the advantages and disadvantages on this pattern in this essay. So in this introduction, the writer develops the idea of the title that more students are traveling abroad to study. And that's good because we're following the question. So we're on the right track with regards to task response. Unfortunately, there are 4 grammatical errors. Okay, and these cover the use of preposition and tense, okay, and the correct tense. Also, the introduction is a little bit short, okay, and the language is okay, but it's a little bit basic, okay. So this is why it gets 6.5. So I'll go through now and just detail each little error. So since the last 10 years. Perhaps it would be better to say over the last 10 years, but the main problem here is the tense which comes next. There are many more students. So we could say since the last 10 years there were many, I think over sounds better. Over the last 10 years there has been would be better. Yeah, there's been more students traveling abroad to study. And then this is what the student writes. It says, who travel abroad to study to international universities. No, to study at or to study in international universities. Okay, I'll investigate the advantages and disadvantages on this pattern. Okay, I will investigate the advantages and disadvantages of this pattern. And not of this pattern, but it sounds of this phenomenon, of this recent development in this essay. But personally, I dislike these sentences for 2 reasons. One, it says, I will investigate. And in academic English, we tend to avoid using these personal pronouns. And it's usually better to say this essay, okay? And the second thing, which I've said before in previous podcasts, is that this sentence is empty I can copy paste it into practically any essay in the world, and it's still relevant. The examiners know this, and well, if it's an empty sentence, there's no point putting it in. What do I mean when I mean an empty sentence? When I say an empty sentence, if this essay was talking about global warming, I could say, I will investigate the advantages and disadvantages of this development in this essay. Doesn't tell me anything, okay? However, if I'd have adapted that sentence and I'd have said, this essay will investigate both sides, looking at China and Brazil to develop arguments and demonstrate points, or demonstrate points and develop my arguments. And just because I mentioned Brazil and China in that sentence, it becomes relevant, becomes useful, because it tells the examiner where I'm going to be going, okay? And slightly more sophisticated language, just by using develop, argument, both sides. I think I said both sides. This essay will discuss both sides using China and Brazil as examples to develop points and or to develop arguments and prove examples or whatever. Okay. But what I wanted to say is that it's not difficult to transform empty sentences into relevant sentences, which will help you score higher. Now then, let's have a look at an introduction that would score slightly higher. And by the way, if you haven't already guessed, the first one is 6.5. Okay, so let's have a look at the second one. So here's the question again. More students are travelling abroad for further education. Do you believe the advantages of this experience are greater than the drawbacks associated with it? There have been an increasing number of students travelling internationally for further education in recent years, whereas some people argue that studying abroad is a very positive experience. Others suggest that there are several problems associated for it. I believe that the advantages of a study abroad experience outweigh the drawbacks. So in this example, the writer has shown a more developed introduction. Okay, they've referenced the pros and cons. They didn't fully develop the argument, they referenced them, which is what I was saying before. They're just touching on them, giving an example, showing very briefly where the essay is going. Okay, there's complex grammar and tense structures are accurate, as in they're correct. There's hardly any mistakes. And here's a key point as well. The examiner used a linking word of contrast, whereas. Okay, so started the sentence with that. Whereas some people argue that studying abroad. Okay, and it's used accurately. So that's going to help the student. Now, did you manage to spot the error? I'll go over the introduction again. There have been an increasing number of students travelling internationally for further education in recent years. Whereas some people argue that studying abroad is a very positive experience, others suggest that there are several problems associated for it. I believe that the advantages of a study abroad experience outweigh the drawbacks. So, associated for it is the problem. Okay, there are several problems associated with it should be the correct way. Okay, now, if we look at the first sentence, in the 6.5, we said there are many more students. Okay, many more students. These are like the first sort of like structures you use or you learn when you're learning English. However, a more sophisticated way would be there is an increasing number of students. Can you see the difference there? And more importantly, it's used accurately, it's used correctly. Okay, so let's carry on looking at this introduction. So, the paragraph is coherent, okay? There's a wide variety of language, and yeah, it gives you an overview, like I said before, of where the essay is going. Let's carry on now and look at the first paragraph of the 6.5 essay, okay? First of all, studying abroad is exciting and you can meet a lot of persons from other countries. You can find opportunities to study new subjects you are not finding at your hometown university. Yet, you can be feeling lonely and feeling homesickness from time to time. As example, I have had this experience when I visited Japan for my study experience 3 years ago. Hopefully, when you heard that, it didn't sound right, and hopefully, as well, you managed to identify the errors. And also, what I want to emphasize again is that the essay is written in a very personal manner. Let's just have a look at the example. As an example, it says, okay, I have had this experience when I visited Japan for my study experience 3 years ago. What's the deal there? Okay, how could have this been transformed? I'm pretty certain you know how to transform it now. Okay, pause the podcast and just try and transform that example. And I'm focusing on the example here because it's a very easy way to pick up points. It's very simple. So pause it and I'll give you how I would transform this. Okay, so I would transform this, and I would, if the student was mine, I would say, a recent report from the Japanese government showed that foreign students visiting Japan often experienced severe homesickness, which resulted in a dropout rate of 5% among foreign students. Wow, look at that. And I might even say change foreign students to international students so I don't repeat foreign. Okay, can you see I've just used a dropout rate, I've used all these different more topic specific examples, and it sounds a million times more academic. Anyway, let's just go back. I'm going to read the paragraph again and pause the podcast, start writing it down, and then try and circle the errors. First of all, studying abroad is exciting and you can meet a lot of persons from other countries. You can find opportunities to study new subjects you are not finding at your hometown university. Yet, you can be feeling lonely and feeling homesickness from time to time. As example, I have had this experience when I visited Japan for my study experience 3 years ago. So in this extract, in this paragraph, the candidate attempts to present a topic sentence with examples. However, there's quite a few grammar and tense issues. Not only do they repeat the same verb twice, like you can find opportunities you're not finding at home. So that's a red flag to begin with. They've incorrectly said you can meet a lot of persons. No, you can meet a lot of people. And instead of using people, what could we use? We could say pupils, students, young learners, foreign learners, international students. And just switch that generic word for something more specific. The writer has also used yet as the linking word of contrast. However, it would have been better to use however. Okay? It would have just been more appropriate. The student has given an example, okay, but it's not clear how this links to sort of like the topic sentence. So the topic sentence here is the first sentence of the paragraph, and the student is talking about it's exciting and you meet a lot of new people. Yeah? So it's exciting and you meet a lot of new people, but then the example talks about being homesick. So this is clearly a disconnect between what you wanted to start talking about and what your example is arguing. Okay, so be careful, and getting it all to link and to relate to each point isn't easy, and it takes practice. But now that you're aware of these mistakes, they're easier to spot. Okay, now the paragraph is understandable, we can read it, but they've used the word, where is it now? Oops, sorry, I'm just getting a bit lost. Yeah, that was it. In line 3, we can see that they've also used the same, not only the same verb, but the same form. So it says, yet you can be feeling lonely and feeling homesickness. Okay, so that's clearly a case of redundancy. I'm not going to go into redundancy now, but it's one thing that you need to be aware of. Well, basically, I'll just quickly mention it, but if you've got the same word twice in the same sentence, or at least in the same paragraph, definitely in the same sentence, then there's probably an opportunity for you to restructure the sentence in a way that the word isn't repeated, but the message is still the same. Okay. Now, another problem, as we mentioned before, was that the example is a little bit weak. Okay, it's just their personal experience, and also the lack of confident structures, the lack of, probably a better word of, the lack of accurate grammar structure throughout the whole paragraph in practically every single sentence will definitely limit this paragraph, or this paragraph, to a band score of 6.5. And of course, we all know that you don't get separate band scores for each paragraph, but if the rest of the essay was written in this style, you would obviously get a band 6.5. Okay, now let's have a look at the next paragraph. Okay, but the first paragraph for the band 8 essay. I'll read it to you now. If you want, grab a pen, write it down, get the skills working, and you can even analyze it afterwards and just try and dissect it yourself, and just circle certain fragments of the sentence and say, okay, fantastic example, good grammar structure, sophisticated language, topic-specific vocabulary. Okay, let's see. First of all, a study abroad trip offers the opportunity to experience education in a new culture. For example, the Erasmus program allows Spanish students to attend university in the United Kingdom. These students can develop English language skills of the country they are visiting. Furthermore, they can learn in a system that is different to that of their home country. This is a truly invaluable experience for any person wishing to enrich their education. Fantastic. Okay, I'll read it one more time, and then I want you to go through and dissect it. Please do this, because it's really valuable for you. And if you can identify why this got a band 8, then it's going to be much easier for you to incorporate those elements into your own writing. So let's go. First of all, a study abroad trip offers the opportunity to experience education in a new culture. For example, the Erasmus program allows Spanish students to attend university in the United Kingdom. These students can develop English language skills of the country they are visiting. Furthermore, they can learn in a system that is different to that of their home country. This is a truly invaluable experience for any person wishing to enrich their education. Let's dissect it quickly. So the paragraph offers a topic sentence. okay, which is a good start. The writers also elaborates on the topic, okay, and it gives a very solid example of Erasmus, okay. Also, the students used a linking word, furthermore, and this helps develop the main idea, gives you like additional points, okay, additional, not points as in 3 points for using this structure or whatever, but it gives you additional points with regards to your argument, okay? So they've used connectors in a very precise way, which is good. And the vocabulary is varied and appropriate. So there's no repetition there. And when I say appropriate, I mean, look at the topic-specific vocabulary used. Study abroad trip, Erasmus program, attend university, okay? We didn't say go to university, we said attend university. Then we used language skills, okay? So there's lots of vocabulary, and plus look at the final sentence, an invaluable experience, okay? Enrich their education. Can you see these types of structures, this kind of vocabulary are what we should be aiming for, okay? And how do we get this type of vocabulary? Well, we read lots of academic reports, lots of academic journals, lots of academic material, and we circle and we highlight and we get the whole structure, and then we experiment with it with our own words, and we get it evaluated, we get feedback, and basically the idea is that we're going to improve and start using these structures in our own writing and get feedback, like I said. Okay, so just to summarize, that paragraph got a higher score because it was cohesive, okay? It developed the answer with very specific examples, used connectors, it maintained a very clear argument using complex grammar and topic-specific vocabulary. Okay, now as I just mentioned before, that the way to get that vocabulary and to get those structures is to start reading, start copying and pasting from other journals, from native English writers, and then experiment and get feedback. Okay, and if you want to get feedback on your essay, you can send it to me and I'll correct it. I think if you sign up to IELTS Podcast, you can get your essay correction done for you. You have to pay. And yeah, it's just a small step on the right track towards your IELTS success. Okay, have a fantastic day. Carry on studying, carry on working hard, and eventually you will.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.